What exactly brought us to this point? This is a question that I am asked fairly often. What exactly did bring us to the point that we are at right now regarding tensions between Iran and the United States? Well, it all begins in 2018. On May 8th of 2018, the President of the United States made good on an election promise that he had made in 2016. The President withdrew from the JCPOA, or the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, as it is more popularly known, or the Iran deal. The Iran deal brought with it an end to sanctions that had been majorly impactful on the country's economy. The U.S. promised a lifting of sanctions, and in exchange, Iran promised to tightly restrict their nuclear program. The withdrawal from the JCPOA put crippling sanctions back on the country, and as expected, Iran was not very happy about it. Iran called the move by Trump unacceptable and vowed to bypass the United States and continue negotiations with other countries that had signed the JCPOA, which include France, Germany, the United Kingdom, Russia, and China. On the 21st of May, 2018, the United States Secretary of State gave 12 demands from the United States to Tehran. If these demands were not met, the U.S. would impose the strongest sanctions in history, stated the Secretary of State, on Iran. The list of demands made by the Secretary of State were as follows. They were to declare to the IAEA a full account of the prior military dimensions of its nuclear program and permanently and verifiably abandon such work, stop enrichment and never pursue plutonium reprocessing, which includes closing their heavy water reactor, provide the IAEA with unrestricted access to all nuclear sites within Iran, end proliferation of ballistic missiles and halt further launching or development of nuclear-capable missiles, release all detained U.S. citizens and citizens of American allies or partners, end support to all Iran-funded terror groups including Hezbollah, Hamas, and the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, permit the disarming, demobilization, and reintegration of Shia militias in Iraq, withdraw all forces under the command of Iran from Syria, end support for the Taliban and other terrorists in Afghanistan, and cease harboring senior al-Qaeda leaders, end the IRGC support for terrorists and militant partners throughout the world, end threatening behavior towards the country's neighbors, including its threats to destroy Israel, and its firing of missiles towards Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates, as well as ending their threats to international shipping. As expected, Iran rejected all of these demands. August 7th, 2018. On August 7th, the United States reimposed sanctions that were originally lifted as part of the Iran deal. The sanctions prohibited trade with numerous business sectors, including aviation and carpets, to things like pistachios and gold. I will put up a picture of some of the things that were sanctioned exactly. November 5th, 2018. On November 5th, the United States imposed a second round of sanctions on Iran, with the second round of sanctions being much more important and targeting key oil and banking sectors. April 8th, 2019. On April 8th, the United States designated the powerful military group, the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps, a foreign terrorist organization. It was the first time that the United States had declared another country's military a terrorist organization. The declaration brought with it economic and travel sanctions on the IRGC that would go into effect on April 15th. As a response, Iran declared the United States a state sponsor of terrorism and called American forces in the region terrorist groups. Many threats were thrown by Iran, threatening to strike American bases in the region since they were now considered terrorist groups. May 5th, 2019. On May 5th, the United States sent an aircraft carrier strike group and numerous Air Force strategic bombers to the Middle East in an announcement made by National Security Advisor John Bolton. Bolton was quoted as saying the United States is not seeking war with the Iranian regime, but we are fully prepared to respond to any attack, whether by proxy, the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps, or regular Iranian forces. May 8th, 2019. Just 1 year after the United States announced that they were withdrawing from the JCPOA, Iran announced that they'll increase enriched uranium and heavy water production. The United States responded by sanctioning Iranian steel and mining sectors. May 12th, 2019. On May 12th, the United Arab Emirates announced that 4 commercial ships off the coast of Fujairah were subjected to sabotage operations. 2 ships, both belonging to Saudi Arabia, the Andrea Victory belonging to the Norwegians, and a UAE bunkering barge, were damaged as a result of this. This would be the first act of international shipping attacks thought to be carried out by Iran. May 14th, 2019. On May 14th, the Yemeni Houthi rebels launched drone attacks on a major oil pipeline in Saudi Arabia, taking it out of service temporarily. Just 2 days later, Saudi Arabia blamed the attack on Iran. It is a long belief that Iran has directly armed the Houthi rebels with missiles and drones to use in attacks against Saudi Arabia. May 19th, 2019. On May 19th, a rocket landed near the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad, inside of the Green Zone. It wasn't clear who was responsible for the attack, but the President of the United States tweeted the following that day: "If Iran wants to fight, that will be the official end of Iran. Never threaten the United States again." As a response, the Foreign Minister of Iran, Mohammad Javad Zarif, responded on Twitter with the following: "Goaded by the B team, Donald Trump hopes to achieve what Alexander, Genghis, and other aggressors failed to do. Iranians have stood tall for millennia while aggressors are all gone. Economic terrorism and genocidal taunts won't end Iran." In quotes. Never threaten an Iranian. Try respect, it works. The president then met with Prime Minister of Japan Shinzo Abe on May 27th. The Prime Minister offered to broker dialogue between the United States and Iran. Trump stated that the United States is not looking for regime change in Iran. June 12th, 2019. Shinzo Abe had arrived in Tehran to attempt to set up dialogue between the United States and Iran. Just a day later, he met with the supreme leader of Iran. He told him the following: "I don't consider Trump as a person worthy of exchanging messages with. I have no response for him and will not answer him." June 13th, 2019, just 1 day after the Prime Minister of Japan met with the supreme leader of Iran, a Japanese and Norwegian tanker came under attack in the Gulf of Oman. The U.S. Fifth Fleet received 2 separate distress calls from the tankers during the attack. Iran claimed that the incident was an accident, and they rescued 44 crewmen. Foreign Minister Zarif called the tanker attacks during Shinzo Abe's visit suspicious. June 17th, 2019. On June 17th, the United States authorized the deployment of 1,000 additional troops to the Middle East. On the same day, Iran announced that they were 10 days away from surpassing the limit set by the JCPOA on the stockpile of low-enriched uranium. Iran stated that they can reverse the action if the JCPOA's European signers step in and make an effort to circumvent U.S. sanctions. June 20th, 2019. On June 20th, the IRGC forces downed a U.S. drone. Both the United States and Iran confirmed the downing of the drone, but both claimed that the drone was in a different place. The United States claims that the drone was operating over international waters. However, Iran claims something very different. Iran claims that the drone was operating over Iranian airspace. The IRGC had shot down a U.S. RQ-4A Global Hawk BAMSD drone with a singular surface-to-air missile. The commander of Aerospace Force of the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps stated that a United States Navy P-8 Poseidon maritime patrol aircraft with 35 people on board was also in the area. He stated that the aircraft had also entered Iranian airspace and they could have shot it down, but chose not to. Iran stated that the P-8 Poseidon had heeded warnings and moved further off the coast of Iran. The Pentagon later confirmed a P-8 was operating in the area. On June 25th, the Russian Security Council secretary echoed the account of the Iranians, stating that the Russian military intelligence showed the U.S. drone operating in Iranian airspace before being shot down. He stated that Iran, and quote, has always been and remains our ally and partner, unquote. The United States responded with a cyber attack that Iran claims was thwarted and more sanctions against important Iranians. June 21st, 2019. On June 21st, the president stated that he had authorized a military strike on Iran just the night before. The president said that he canceled the attack 10 minutes before the planned attack was supposed to be carried out because he had found out that 150 people would have been killed. The president tweeted, "On Monday, they, Iran, shot down an unmanned drone flying over international waters. We were cocked and loaded to retaliate on 3 different sites when I asked, how many people will die? 150 people, sir," was the answer from a general. 10 minutes before the strike, I stopped it. It was not proportionate to shooting down an unmanned drone. I am in no hurry. Our military is rebuilt, new and ready to go, by far the best in the world. Sanctions are biting and more were added last night. Iran can never have nuclear weapons, not against the USA and not against the world. June 22nd, 2019. On June 22nd, Iran stated that it was ready to respond firmly to any U.S. threat against the country. Foreign Ministry spokesman stated, "We will not allow any violation against Iran's border. Iran will firmly confront any aggression or threat by America." On the same day, Iran executed a defense ministry contractor convicted of spying for the United States Central Intelligence Agency. The U.S. vowed to impose fresh sanctions and added that a military response was, quote, still on the table. June 25th, 2019. On June 25th, the United States imposed major sanctions, this time targeting the supreme leader of Iran and associates with additional financial sanctions. The president stated, "Sanctions imposed throughout the executive order will deny the supreme leader and the supreme leader's office and those closely affiliated with him and the office access to key financial resources and support." The foreign minister of Iran responded on Twitter with the following tweet: "Real Donald Trump is 100% right that the United States military has no business in the Persian Gulf. Removal of its forces is fully in line with interests of the U.S. and the world, but it is now clear that the B team is not concerned with U.S. interests. They despise diplomacy and are thirsty for war." The president of Iran dismissed the sanctions as outrageous and idiotic. He stated that the strategic patience of Iran should not be mistaken for fear. On June 29, 2019, the U.S. Air Force Central Command stated that F-22 Raptor stealth fighters were being deployed to the Middle East to, quote, defend American forces and interests. July 1st, 2019. On July 1st, Iran exceeded the limit on the amount of enriched uranium in its stockpile. United Nations Atomic Watchdog confirmed that inspectors verified the breach of the 300-kilogram cap. July 4th, 2019. On July 4th, British Royal Marines, police, and custom agents in Gibraltar seized a supertanker they accused of carrying Iranian crude oil to Syria in breach of sanctions imposed by the European Union. Grace 1 was boarded on Thursday when it slowed down to a designated area used by numerous shipping agencies to ferry goods to ships in Gibraltar along Spain's southern coast. On July 12th, police in Gibraltar arrested the captain and chief officer of the Iranian supertanker. July 8th, 2019. On July 8th, Iran passed the uranium enrichment cap set by the JCPOA, the second time in a week that they made good on a promise to reduce compliance with the JCPOA deal. July 19th, 2019. On July 19th, the IRGC stated that they had seized a British oil tanker operating in the Strait of Hormuz. The Stena Impero tanker was, quote, confiscated by the Revolutionary Guards at the request of Hormozgan Ports and Maritime Organization when passing through the Strait of Hormuz for failing to respect international maritime rules, according to the IRGC on their website. July 25th, 2019. On July 25th, the United Kingdom announced that the country will send warships to escort all British-flagged vessels through the Strait of Hormuz. HMS Montrose, a Royal Navy frigate, was tasked to sail along the ships for protection. August 1st, 2019. On August 1st, the United States imposed sanctions on the Foreign Minister of Iran for acting on behalf of Ali Khamenei. Javad Zarif implements the reckless agenda of Iran's supreme leader and is the regime's primary spokesman around the world, said U.S. Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin. Zarif brushed off the sanctions publicly on Twitter, stating the following, quote, "The U.S. reason for designating me is that I am Iran's primary spokesperson around the world. Is the truth really that painful? It has no effect on me or my family, as I have no property or interests outside of Iran. Thank you for considering me such a huge threat to your agenda." August 15th, 2019. On August 15th, the Gibraltar Supreme Court ruled that Grace 1 was free to sail, just hours after the United States made a last-minute attempt to keep the vessel under detention. August 3rd, 2019. On August 23rd, Rouhani inducted a locally built air defense system into the country's missile defense network at an unveiling ceremony in Tehran. Iran began production after the purchase of the Russian S-300 missile defense system was suspended in 2012 due to international sanctions barring it from importing weapons. Rouhani stated at the ceremony that the mobile surface-to-air missile system was better than the S-300 and was close to the more advanced S-400 system produced by Russia. August 30th, 2019. On August 30th, the United Nations stated that Iran was continuing to exceed limitations set by the nuclear deal. They continued to increase their stock of enriched uranium and continued to refine it to a greater purity allowed by the JCPOA. The quarterly report by the United Nations International Atomic Energy Agency confirmed that Iran is progressively backing out of the pact in retaliation for the U.S. withdrawal from the deal. September 3rd. On September 3rd, the United States imposed sanctions on Iran's Civil Space Agency and 2 research organizations, stating that they were being used to advance the country's ballistic missile program. The Iran Space Agency, the Iran Space Research Center, and the Astronautics Research Institute were sanctioned. Quote, "The United States will not allow Iran to use its space launch program as cover to advance its ballistic missile program," stated the United States Secretary of State. September 4, 2019. On September 4th, the United States continued to up the economic pressure on Iran by blacklisting an oil shipping network that the United States alleged was directed by the IRGC. The blacklisted group of firms, ships, and individuals was accused by the U.S. Department of Treasury Secretary of breaching sanctions by supplying Syria with oil worth hundreds of millions of dollars. September 5th, 2019. On September 5th, the Financial Times reported that Brian Hook, the designated person for the State Department on Iran, had sent emails to the captain of Grace 1, offering him millions of dollars in United States dollar to steer the ship into a waterway in which it could be seized in. September 7th, 2019. On September 7th, Iran began injecting gas into advanced centrifuges to increase its stockpile of enriched uranium. Iran Atomic Energy Organization spokesman stated that the country had started up advanced centrifuges at their enrichment facility in Natanz, which was the third step by Iran at scaling back commitments under the JCPOA. September 10th, 2019. On September 10th, the President of the United States tweeted that he had fired National Security Advisor John Bolton, stating that he disagreed with many of his, quote, hawkish positions. Bolton being fired was apparently linked to a fundamental disagreement over the potential easing of United States sanctions on Iran. Iran then took aim at Bolton, stating that the U.S. should distance itself from, quote, warmongers. September 14th, 2019. On September 14th, the Yemeni Houthi rebel group claimed responsibility for drone attacks on 2 major Saudi Aramco oil facilities, Abqaiq, which is the world's largest oil processing plant, and Ruwais oil field in eastern Saudi Arabia. The strikes knocked out more than half of crude oil output. The United States Secretary of State Mike Pompeo quickly blamed Iran for the attack, stating that Iran, quote, has now launched an unprecedented attack on the world's energy supply. He stated that there is no evidence the attacks came from Yemen, regarding the Houthi rebel group claiming responsibility. Iran dismissed the allegations, calling them meaningless, and stated that they were meant to justify actions against the country. Saudi Arabia restored oil production capability to 11.3 million BPD, which was the level before the attack, according to Reuters. September 24th, 2019. On September 24th, in front of the UN General Assembly, the president lashed out on Iran and called for other countries around the world to, quote, tighten the economic noose around Iran's neck. The president stated, quote, one of the greatest security threats facing peace-loving nations today is the oppressive regime in Iran. The president went on to say the following, quote, the regime's record of death and destruction is well known to us all. Not only is Iran the world's #1 state sponsor of terrorism, but Iran's leaders are fueling the tragic wars in both Syria and Yemen, and at the same time the regime is squandering the nation's wealth and future in a financial quest for nuclear weapons. Escalation with Iran has been a slow-going progress, but it is something that is still growing even over a year later. It is something that everybody should keep a close eye on and something that we must pay attention to. Who knows exactly where we're going from here? Saudi Arabia has stated that the military response option is still on the table, and the president has stated that the U.S. is locked and loaded and is waiting to hear from Saudi Arabia which route they'd like to take. Saudi Arabia seems to be very confident in an international investigation in which they are waiting for the results of before they respond. We all seem to have a close eye on this, as we should. Keep an eye on the Intel Doge Twitter page and the Intel Doge YouTube account for new updates as tensions grow stronger. Thank you for watching. And before I end the video, I just want to point out that the user on Twitter that goes by the name of Abad, he is known for spreading false information, and he is not a user on Twitter that can be trusted for reliable news and information in the region. Most of his tweets have no source and are simply outrageous claims and outrageous beliefs that are not true. So, just wanted to point that out. Thank you for watching.